Hello and welcome to Talking Development. Development needs are rising and multilateral development banks are being asked to do more than ever before. Mobilize more financing, move faster, coordinate better, and deliver stronger results. But what do client countries actually think? Where are we delivering and where are we falling short? ODI Global set out to answer that question. Their latest client survey brought together perspectives from 650 government and MDB officials across 125 countries. It is one of the most comprehensive assessments of MDB effectiveness from a client perspective. Joining us today to discuss the findings is Sara Pantuliano, Chief Executive of ODI Global. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you so much, Anna. It's a pleasure to be with you and to talk about the survey.
I know. So let's dive straight in. Client countries, officials from across 125 countries. That's truly global. Can you share with us one or two findings that stand out, and did anything surprise you?
So I think what really stood out was that throughout all the interviews in all the different countries, across all officials, MDBs remain not just relevant, but their relevance is growing. They continue to be really important. And when we interrogated why, it is because of the financing, the technical assistance, and the convening power, but all together. It's not one or the other. It's not because of the convening or because of the financing. It's because they bring the three together. And that makes them unique in that respect. Now, what surprised me, well, look, ODI Global, we've been accompanying a lot of the process of reform of the MDBs, and we know how much work you're doing to try and meet clients where they are. But that is not yet translating at country level. That was clear. And what countries were saying in particular, that was at the level of coordination across the MDBs. And again, that really surprised me because I know how much work has really been taking place to try and improve that interoperability. And in terms of the length of the project cycle. And again, knowing how much work has been done to try and reduce the length of the project cycle, that was surprising. But it shows how, complex institutions, to get the changes to show at country level, it takes time.
Yeah. I want to come back to the relevance question. What I found interesting in the survey is that it's not for like one income group of a country or another. It's even, in a way, for countries that are not necessarily tapping into the finance all that much. How do you explain the relevance to all income groups of client countries, and in particular those that are tapping in less for financing?
Yeah, no, you're correct. And 3/4 of the people we interviewed all said that this relevance is growing. So this was really across the piece. Very few said that they see in the long term, a decline in the importance of the multilateral development banks. Now, when we ask particularly the countries that can borrow from the market, or they've got their own sort of processes, why? I think what was clear was that the lending is still cheaper than elsewhere, and maturities are longer. I think those were the two important things. But we also asked the question, if you at one point had to borrow from the market, especially for those who have market access, why would you do that? And the answer was because it's a lot faster to access the money. So that would be something to watch, because clearly that would be an incentive for countries to move away from the MDBs.
Yeah, interesting. I want to come back to some of the findings on areas where MDBs still have to improve, and you mentioned a few of them. Can you talk a bit more on what were the 2 or 3 that stood out the most for you when it comes to what we still have to do better on, even though, as you say, we're working on many, but clearly the work isn't finished. So what stood out the most there that clients really need to see us move differently?
So there were 2 things that came up repeatedly in the survey, and I think they're related actually. So the first was country presence. That was really a call. Stable, visible presence is important to strengthen the dialogue with the country, to improve country ownership, to make sure that bank staff understand the processes and the context in which projects are developed, because that also helps shorten project preparation. And then the other was the importance for technical assistance to be tailored to the context. There was a strong feeling that technical assistance is often very standardized, is generic, is not tailored to local realities, to the context, to the culture. And so that was felt it really needs to change. In many ways, what we heard from countries is that they want the bank and in general the multilateral development banks to go beyond diagnostics. They want practical recommendations, tailored recommendations to the specific context.
Both are so important, and both are areas where I hope that we can soon see a felt difference. One is, we're creating hubs around the world now and moving even our most senior people in operations, regional vice presidents, to serve the client better. And with moving decision-making, which should speed up the time it takes. And the second is our knowledge bank. Our knowledge bank is all about getting the best global experience tailored for the local context. And that is so important. And being able to do so through tried and tested policies, reforms, investments that both scale and get impact sooner, but goes beyond diagnostics. So we have to keep at this, is what I hear you say. Sara, I want to ask you one additional question, which is, from where you sit and you follow all of this, what would be one change you would advise or urge MDBs to make that could deal with things like an incentive, a process change, a behavior even, that you think could make a big difference?
So rather than me saying it, I'll share what again we heard so much, and is around the financing and changing incentives for project preparation. Now that may sound like a process type thing, but it's not. We heard very clearly from clients the project preparation is fundamental to make sure that there are financing them, can really lead to good feasibility studies, to standards for regulatory frameworks, to avoid duplications that slows down the preparations of projects. So all of those things are really critical to make sure that the projects then align to the system of the country, the really embedded, are in line with the national priorities and ultimately have more impact on the ground. And this is not just for bank officials, it's also for shareholders. That seems like a process type thing, but actually it all starts with the project preparation. And that's why the banks are so valued, because this is not something that you get from the market.
Again, hopefully soon it will be felt. We launched a project preparation facility, kind of copied what Asian Development Bank was doing, which was so appreciated by clients. That's another thing we want to get very comfortable with is, oh, you're doing something that works. Guess what? We're going to do it too. But that's great, Sara. Thank you so much. And thank you to ODI Global for doing this type of work. We really rely on it. And I will be coming back to you for more discussion, as you know. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anna.
So indeed, surveys like this matter because they shift the conversation from what MDBs intend to do to what clients actually experience. And that distinction matters. The message is clear. MDBs remain highly relevant, but we must continue to evolve. Clients value our expertise and global reach, but they're asking us to move faster, work better together, and build programs that reflect their most pressing challenges and to deliver at scale. The World Bank Group is making progress on all these fronts. Listening to our clients is central to how we stay effective today and how we adapt for tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on Talking Development.